This is Ocean Robbins, and I am so thrilled that we're about 1 or 2 minutes away now from beginning our final event in the Plant Powered and Thriving Experts Series. In just a few moments, I will be joined by my dad and colleague, best-selling author John Robbins, and by our special guest for this Power Hour, New York Times best-selling author and world-renowned surgeon and medical researcher, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. We're going to be focusing on how you can prevent and reverse heart disease with food. In 1995, Dr. Esselstyn published his groundbreaking long-term nutritional research, arresting and reversing coronary artery disease in severely ill patients. That same study was updated at 12 years and then reviewed beyond 20 years in his book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, making it one of the longest longitudinal studies of its type. In July of 2014, he reported the experience of 198 participants seriously ill with cardiovascular disease. During 3.7 years of follow-up, of the 89% adherent to the program, 99.4% avoided further major cardiac events. Dr. Esselstyn and his wife have followed a plant-powered diet since 1984. He presently directs the Cardiovascular Prevention and Reversal Program at the Cleveland Clinic Wellness Institute. We're about to begin this Power Hour, and we are so thrilled to have this time with you. We had a Power Hour with Dr. Dean Ornish on Thursday, and the response was tremendous. We heard from Vicky Gazvoda, who said, "I'm so grateful for all your dedication in sharing this information. Thank you for your amazing way of delivering practical, applicable information to the masses." So now we are ready to begin this Power Hour with my dad and colleague, John Robbins, and renowned surgeon and best-selling author, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Here we go. All right, welcome everybody to the third and final event in the Healthy Eating Power Hour series. This is Ocean Robbins, co-founder and CEO of the Food Revolution Network, and I'm here right now with two very special people. Let me first introduce my dad and colleague, Food Revolution Network president and international best-selling author of over 30 years and 2 million copies, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. I'm feeling excited and grateful that we get to have this time with so many people from all over the world, really, who are joining us right now to discover how we each can fight disease and reap the benefits of excellent nutrition, and how we can make healthy eating into a lifelong, life-giving habit that brings greater joy and pleasure and health and happiness into all of our lives.
This Power Hour is the third and final one in our series. In our first Power Hour, we spoke with Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson on making healthy eating into a habit that you love. In our second Power Hour, we spoke with Dr. Dean Ornish on the pillars of lifestyle medicine. If you missed either of them, they are still available on replay. And for this, our final Power Hour, we're joined by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn with a focus on how you can prevent and reverse heart disease with food. So now, let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Esselstyn. He is a surgeon and author of the best-selling book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. He's produced more than 150 scientific publications and conducted a series of groundbreaking studies that have helped to solidify the foundation of plant-based nutrition to fight disease. He was awarded the first ever Benjamin Spock Award for Compassion in Medicine in 2005. In 1956, he received a gold medal in rowing in the Olympic Games. In 1968, as an Army surgeon in Vietnam, he was awarded the Bronze Star. Currently, Dr. Esselstyn directs the Cardiovascular Disease Prevention and Reversal Program at the Cleveland Wellness Institute. And Dr. Esselstyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Ocean, what a delight to be with you and your dad this evening. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. You know, it's always such a delight for us, such an honor for us to share time with you. And speaking to every one of our participants, we're thrilled to have you with us now, too. I want to give you a sense of how this hour is going to flow. In a few moments, the three of us are going to discuss some of the top questions and challenges that we see a lot of people face as they endeavor to take advantage of optimal nutrition for cardiovascular health and wellness. We're going to look at how your heart and your whole cardiovascular system work and at why food is so critically important important to your health. Then we're going to answer some questions that are coming in from our Power Hour participants. And after this hour is complete, we're going to invite you to stay on with us to hear about our wildly popular course, which is called Plant Powered and Thriving. It's a 6-week online course that starts Tuesday. We've designed it to help you implement all that you're learning so that you can master nutritional excellence and make it stick in your life long term. We'll let you know how you can join in today only for a big savings and with some fabulous bonuses.
At the bottom of the broadcast page, you'll find a comments area. You can type in your questions and your comments, any reflections that you have right there. And if you hear anything that is particularly inspiring to you, anything you want to remember or highlight or want others to be sure to hear, please go ahead and share that in the comments area as well. And now let's talk for a moment about the state of our food world today. The food industry tells us often that there are good for you foods and there are fun for you foods. It kind of sticks in my craw to even say those words because it's so misleading to think that way. It's amazing really how often the fun for you foods turn out to fuel suffering and disease and even to be addictive. How much fun really is cancer? How much fun is heart disease? How much fun is diabetes? How much fun is it if you develop Alzheimer's as you age and can't remember the names of your kids or your grandkids? In our culture, it seems that eating real wholesome food can sometimes seem almost like a radical thing to do, something that's extreme. But in fact, it's one of the most basic and practical and effective things you can do. And it's one of the most effective things you can do if you want to live a long and healthy life. And if you want to experience vitality and lots of positive energy and be able to make the most of your life. So thank you for being here and for joining with us in this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to talk now about heart and cardiovascular health. There are 1 million heart attacks every year in the United States alone. That's one every 30 seconds. Dr. Esselstyn, you're one of the leading pioneers on the planet for helping to turn this around. Do you think it's overreaching to say that we could end the heart disease epidemic by changing what we eat?
No, not at all. And I think that really hits the hammer where it ought to be. I've often said when I start presenting to an audience, let's suppose that you're a cardiac surgeon. And let's suppose that you decide you're going to hang out your shingle in Okinawa, maybe rural China, perhaps the Papua Highlands, Central Africa, the Tarahumara in northern Mexico. Look, you better forget it. You better plan on selling pencils. Why? You're not going to operate on anybody in those cultures. Why? Because they are all thriving on whole food, plant-based nutrition. Look, let's really call a spade here. Cardiovascular disease is nothing more than a toothless paper tiger that need never, ever exist. And if it does exist, it need never, ever progress. This is a completely benign foodborne illness. And I think the thing that really impresses me more and more is that in this nation, we have built a $1 billion healthcare industry around an illness that does not even exist in half the planet. So we can do a lot better. The data out there are quite clear, and it's really a very important responsibility of our profession to really end this disease.
And one that you have stepped into boldly and brilliantly. I think that there are many people who are alive today who would not be absent your work. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, literally and figuratively, for helping heal so many hearts.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I think that the thing that I would like to have your audience understand is that an area where experts are in agreement are where this disease has its onset, its inception, its beginning, is when we progressively injure the life jacket and the guardian of our blood vessels, which happens to be that delicate innermost lining of the artery, the endothelium. And it's the endothelium that manufactures a truly magic molecule of gas, nitric oxide, which is truly the great salvation and protector of all of our vasculature.
Yeah.
Can I ask,
go ahead.
Can I ask you then, what is it in our diets that is injuring the endothelial layer?
Well, we're gonna. I think this is absolutely the ticket, right on the ticket here, John, because we have to look at, first of all, what makes nitric oxide so absolutely remarkable. One, it has these actually about 5 or 6 functions, but the first function is it keeps all the cellular elements within our bloodstream flowing smoothly like Teflon rather than Velcro. Number 2, nitric oxide is the strongest blood vessel dilator in the body. When you have climbed stairs, when you, the arteries to your heart, the arteries to your legs, they widen, they dilate, that's nitric oxide. Number 3, nitric oxide will protect the wall of the artery from becoming thickened, stiff, or inflamed, protects us from high blood pressure, hypertension. Number 4, now here's the absolute key. Number 4, a safe and adequate amount of nitric oxide will protect us from ever developing blockages or plaque. So literally everybody on the planet, whether they're from Chicago, whether they're from Salt Lake City, whether they're from Bulgaria, if they have cardiovascular diseases, because by now, through the earlier decades in their life, they have so sufficiently trashed, injured, and compromised the capacity of their endothelial cells to make nitric oxide, they don't have enough to protect themselves. But now the good news here, of course, is this is not a malignancy. This is a completely benign foodborne illness. And if you can get the patients to understand, here are the foods that every time they have passed your lips, you have injured your endothelial capacity to make nitric oxide. What are those foods that we try to get the patients to eliminate? Absolutely any oil. Olive oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, palm oil, oil in a cracker, oil in a piece of bread, oil in a salad dressing. Oil injures the endothelial capacity to make nitric oxide, as does anything with a mother or a face. Meat, fish, chicken, fowl, jerky, and eggs, and dairy, milk, cream, butter, cheese, ice cream, yogurt, and any excess of sugary foods, sugary drinks, cakes, pies, cookies, stevia, agave, excess of maple syrup, molasses, and honey. And I'm not a great fan of coffee with caffeine.
Thanks for that.
Well,
When you're sitting with a patient and you're wanting to help them implement healthy eating principles that stick, what do you say? How do you guide them?
The patients that I'm sitting before these days are those that have already had significant cardiovascular disease. And right now at the Wellness Institute, once a month, I conduct an intensive counseling seminary. Excuse me, I conduct an intensive counseling seminar for persons who do have cardiovascular disease. Now, it's a little bit awkward because 85% of these patients are coming from outside the state of Ohio. So I only get them for one day. And we do this in groups of 10 to 14 at a time, always with their significant other or spouse in attendance, and they come for free. And they are going to learn all about what it is that they have done to create this illness, and also how they are to be empowered as the locus of control to halt and reverse this disease. Now, a couple of things I want to mention, because if we no longer do this one-on-one, because we found this is a much more powerful format when we have about 10 to 14 people. And the question is that is challenging everybody who deals with these patients is, how are you going to achieve compliance? How are you going to get them to make a very significant lifestyle change? And since we're running about close to 90%, actually 89.3% adherence in this last group of 198 that we discussed, I think there the key to me to achieving that degree of compliance is to show the patient respect. The only way that I know to show a patient respect is to give them my time. So, as I mentioned, we get them for one day, 5.5 hours. And I should share with you that before the patients come, about 2 weeks beforehand, my secretary will provide me with a list of the patients and their phone numbers. And I guess I can be accused of being so old-fashioned that I insist on personally calling every one of those patients so that I can get my arms around their story and at the same time permit them an opportunity to ask questions of me, so that coming to the seminar, we now already have a platform from which we can all move forward. Now, at the seminar, I get about 3 hours for the science. Then Anne has about an hour and a quarter. Here she is with 30 years experience acquiring and preparing plant-based foods, because it's one thing when they hear the science, then they think, my God, they're like a puppy in the deep grass. How am I going to do this? And so in addition to hearing the science, everybody is going to get a very hefty notebook. In that notebook will be copies of several of our scientific papers that we want them to be familiar with. There will be also a 44-page handout of many additional recipes that add to the 240, which will be in the 2 books that we provide them. Then comes Anne with her hour and a quarter, and she's going to explain to them all about how to read ingredients, travel in restaurants. And then everybody does receive a DVD of the entire seminar that I filmed from an earlier one. So should they go home and get rusty or forgetful, they can flip this on and get themselves back up to speed. And then we always have, and I think this is key, we always have 3 local or regional participants who've had a previous successful experience share their story, because here they are, they've learned the science, they've seen the practical aspect of how to deal with the food, but then they want to say, God, does it really work? And here are these 3 profound examples that really resonate with them. Then we answer all questions, have a delightful plant-based luncheon, and then stay in touch as necessary through email or phone call. And I think this really cinches it for the patient, because if you're going to try to make a lifestyle change and you're still seeing in 10 or 12-minute visits up to 20 patients a day, you're dreaming. That isn't going to happen.
You know, when you talk about the patients who've already been through the program and they're there to demonstrate, to embody as examples that it works, and how that can inspire the rest of the folks and help them to make the changes that really are needed. I'm thinking about the fact that in our culture as a whole, the common thinking, the mainstream thinking, is that eating healthfully is nice. It's a good thing. But I don't think that the mainstream thinking, the conventional wisdom, really grasps how effective it can be in preventing and reversing heart disease and diabetes and many other diseases, dementia included. And how is it that you have come to understand so fully that eating healthfully not only provides optimal nutrition, but also is so darn effective in helping people live great lives?
Well, you bring up the key point. I guess why it is that 16 years after I retired from surgery, I find myself today perhaps more passionate than ever about the future of medicine, because we are truly, John, on the cusp of what could be a seismic revolution in health. And this seismic revolution in health is never going to come about with another drug or another pill. It's not going to come about with another procedure. It's not going to come about with another operation. This seismic revolution in health will come about when we in the profession have the will and the grit and the determination to share with the public truly what is the lifestyle, and most specifically, what is the nutritional literacy that will empower them as the locus of control to absolutely annihilate chronic illness. And this is just not, as you've indicated, it's not just heart disease. It is hypertension. We see that go away. It is diabetes. We see that go away. The risk for stroke goes away. The risk for vascular dementia goes away. And even ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, allergies, asthma, and the list goes on. When have we ever had in medicine a tool that is as powerful in our toolbox, as safe and enduring as whole food plant-based nutrition? This is beyond belief. It's as if the heavens have opened and said, here, medicine, here's the answer to chronic disease.
And the answer to a lot of people's prayers.
Yeah.
A lot of people know that unhealthy fats are bad for us, like trans fats, hydrogenated fats, margarine. But there's one place around fat that a lot of people are confused. And in the last few years, we've been hearing study after study that's reputed to exonerate saturated fat. We've got headlines like butter is back. I wonder if my dad could comment on that a little bit.
Thank you, Ocean. Yeah, a lot of people think that way. And I've looked very carefully at these studies that people are saying exonerates butter and that gives butter and cheese and ice cream and so forth a pass. But what these studies are actually showing is that when people reduce their intake of saturated fat and replace those calories in their diet with refined carbohydrates, and particularly sugar and white flour, there's not any advantage. They don't lower their heart disease rates or anything else. So there really isn't a benefit to eating less saturated fat if it means you're eating more sugar and more white flour. But that doesn't mean actually that butter and meat and cheese and ice cream belong in a healthy diet. What it means is that sugar and white flour and refined carbs, as well as the saturated fat found in butter, meat, and cheese, actually have very little place in an optimally healthy diet. And there's something else that these studies are also saying. When people reduce their intake of saturated fat, meat and dairy products in particular, and replace those calories in their diet with healthier foods rather than with sugar and white flour, they show dramatic improvements in many different biomarkers. They have much lower rates of heart disease, much lower rates of hypertension, of diabetes and obesity, and they benefit from many, many other positive health outcomes. So butter isn't really back. It's just that don't replace butter with sugar. Instead, replace it with healthier foods, and your body will thank you for the rest of your life.
Dr. Esselstyn, what's your take on the impact of animal products in particular on cardiovascular health and overall physical health? Do you agree with my dad's sentiments here, and what's your sense here?
Yeah, I think that to reinforce what your father just reviewed, have you ever seen a study of patients who are seriously ill with heart disease, who are given bacon, ice cream, and meat, and ever even reversed their disease or even halted their disease? That study does not exist. And I think I listed earlier the foods that every time they pass our lips, they injure the endothelial cells. And that's what is so true about animal products. I think it's important at this time to mention, perhaps, there was quite a classic study done by Robert Vogel, who was the past chairman of cardiology at the University of Maryland. And he did a fascinating study where he took a healthy group of young subjects to a certain fast food restaurant that is characterized by arches, which are golden. Now, half of that group got cornflakes. Then they had the brachial artery tourniquet test for the production of nitric oxide. It was normal. It was wonderful. The other half of the group ate the hash browns and sausages. 120 minutes after that meal, with the brachial artery tourniquet test, they couldn't dilate the artery. That single meal of hash browns and sausage had so soundly thrashed and injured the capacity of the endothelial cell to make nitric oxide. They simply didn't have enough to dilate their vessels. But being young, as they followed them into the late afternoon and early evening, they kind of began to recover. But you and I know the next morning for breakfast, it's going to be scrambled eggs and bacon. And at lunchtime, maybe white flour, cold cuts, and mayonnaise. And then for supper, we'll have a baked potato with sour cream, lamb chops, vegetables soaked in butter, ranch dressing on a salad, and ice cream for dessert. Here in the good old USA, we, starting in childhood, just pound on and beat on and injure the endothelial cell capacity to make nitric oxide, so that if we get autopsy because of deaths from homicide, suicide, of 17 to 34-year-olds, they already have the foundation for heart disease. Now, not enough to have their cardiac events, but as they continue to eat this way, now in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and beyond, we begin to see those cardiac events of an illness that they started when they were in childhood.
I'd like to focus a little bit now on one of the solutions a lot of people turn to, which is legumes. Now, legumes are a huge source of protein on this planet. They provide an estimated 33% of the world's total protein intake. They provide an abundant source of fiber, folate, iron, magnesium, potassium, and choline. And they've also been found to help fight cancer. There was an 8-year study in Uruguay involving more than 3,500 cancer cases and 2,000 hospital controls. And scientists found that the highest rates of bean and lentil consumption were associated with a 25% reduction in overall cancer rates across all types of cancer. But now we do have some people who are saying that beans are high in lectins, which are anti-nutrients and should be avoided. People following today's popular paleo diets often ascribe to this thinking, and they say to avoid beans and other legumes. So, Dr. Esselstyn, what's your take on lectins and on this controversy?
Well, I don't know well, see, once you've done the cooking of these products, I think that if there is any adverse problem from lectins, at least you're not seeing it from a cardiovascular standpoint in the cultures that I listed for you earlier. And I really think that if we look at the science, there is really nothing to fear of the lectins that are in beans. Beans are such an important source and a healthy source of protein. And I know of no study that has been done with those who are ingesting legumes that shows that there's any earlier mortality.
I would add to that the foremost advocate in the country today of the idea that beans should be avoided because of their lectin content is Dr. Stephen Gundry, who wrote the book, The Plant Paradox, and it's a bestseller now. And it's leading a lot of people away from legumes out of the fear of the lectins in them. But even Dr. Gundry, in his book, The Plant Paradox, states that if you pressure cook beans, it completely eliminates the lectins. It's no longer an issue. Well, most of the beans that are eaten in the United States and in the world are canned. Canned people get canned beans. And by law in the United States anyway, all canned beans have to be pressure cooked. Therefore, most of the beans that are eaten have zero lectins left because they've been pressure cooked and canned. And if you pressure cook your beans at home, same result. The lectins are gone. Also, if you soak your beans before cooking them, the lectins are gone. Also, if you cook them thoroughly, even not in a pressure cooker, the lectins are gone. So the worry about lectins in legumes, beans and lentils and split peas and so forth really only applies if you eat them raw. And I don't know very many people that eat raw beans. And I think that we've been misled into worrying about this. And I don't think we really need to, and particularly because legumes, beans are such a wonderful source, as you mentioned, of protein, but also of fiber, and a particular type of fiber that the American Cancer Society says over and again will help reduce the rates of cancer across the board, all kinds of cancer. So I think it's a shame when people are deterred from eating legumes and beans because of the concern about lectins, when the reality is if you cook them well, the concern is no longer has any weight at all.
John, that was my whole point about cooking, and you said it excellent. I want to mention, though, a bit of research, because you mentioned something about the paleo group. And this research, I think, will help clarify where the paleo situation is in trouble. At the Cleveland Clinic about 4 years ago, Stan Hazen and his team looked carefully at the molecules of lecithin and carnitine. And lecithin and carnitine are predominantly found in animal foods, in dairy and seafood, in meat, chicken, turkey, the whole spectrum of animal foods filled with lecithin and carnitine. Now, when an omnivore eats a lamb chop, let's say, and then you measure their blood, you will find that their TMA, trimethylamine oxide, is quite high. This is made only in omnivores because they contain in their gut bacteria that will enable them to convert lecithin and carnitine to TMA. Then trimethylamine is rapidly oxidized in our liver to trimethylamine oxide, and that's the rascal that injures the blood vessel. And the other thing that was quite striking that Stanley Hazen found, if he took somebody who was totally plant-based, fed them a lamb chop, and then drew blood to measure for TMA, no, none, or a tiny little bit. Why? Because persons who are plant-based do not possess in their gut bacteria that will metabolize lecithin and carnitine into TMAO. And it's a pretty powerful lesson on the dangers of eating animal products.
It's fascinating, actually. I would like to turn our attention to another area here that I think is on the minds of a lot of our participants, and that's blood flow to the brain. Dementia is probably one of the things that elderly people fear the most. More than 2/3 of the population that reaches the age of 85 in the US has some form of dementia setting in. Many of our elders are losing the ability to remember the names of their loved ones. They're draining their family's financial resources because of all the care that they require. It's a painful reality, and it's tragically all too common. Now, Dr. Esselstyn, you're in your 80s, and you're an extraordinary example of longevity and vibrancy at every stage of life. What is your take on the foods our participants might want to most emphasize in their diets if they want to maximize mental function now and long term?
Well, I'm kind of guided by a study that was done by Megan Leary and her team from the West Coast, who, in reporting at the stroke meetings in Miami in 2001, they had looked at over 5,500 MRIs of the brains of Americans. What they begin to see in the brains of Americans through the MRI at age 50 are these tiny little white spots. Now, age 50, big brain, tiny little white spot. That is a little stroke. So, age 50, one or two of these tiny little white spots, big brain, not a problem. But suddenly, you are no longer 50. You're now 65. You've had 15 more years of the good old American diet. And now, more often than before, you say, as you look at your loved one, sweetheart, where'd I leave the car keys? Well, come on, you get through that. Bingo, before you know it, you're now 75. And more often than before, you look at her and you say, sweetheart, where'd I leave the car? Well, you kind of get through that all right. Now, suddenly, 10 more years has gone by. You're 85. You look at her and you say, are you my sweetheart? I can't reverse that. You don't suddenly develop vascular dementia when you're 85 on your 85th birthday. You work hard in all those preceding decades to lay the foundation for that dementia. Doesn't have to happen. And more recently, actually 2 weeks ago at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I heard an excellent presentation from Wes Youngberg, who is able to show us all about, in a wonderful presentation, about the neuroplasticity of the brain. In other words, if all these, for instance, he does not feel that Alzheimer's or this dementia at all has to be a function of aging. That just like we saw earlier in this conversation this evening, we saw the fact that it takes decades and decades of injuring the endothelial cell before you reduce your nitric oxide enough to really give you a problem. Well, the same thing is true of everybody's brain. Either when you're lack of socialization, lack of exercise, lack of a whole food plant-based diet, you're pushing the brain in the direction of Alzheimer's. And then you change these things, and he has been able to show, along with Dr. Bredesen, that you can begin to reverse this process. Gee, I mean, how exciting is that? So it's really, to me, very, very exciting to see that so many of these illnesses, especially that have to do with our head, don't have to happen.
Yes. I'd like to ask my dad now, is there a particular food, there are so many, of course, that can be good for our mental function. Is there a particular one you'd share with us that you're excited about that we might want to incorporate more of in our diets?
Yes, although first I want to say that it's the overall eating pattern that's most important. Michael Pollan famously said, eat food,
Mostly.
not too much, mostly plants. And by that, he meant eat real food, eat whole food, eat food the way nature intends it, not the ultra processed food that we find in our supermarkets and is packaged and canned and full of chemicals and things that are designed to make us crave those foods and high in sugar and so forth. And they're really bad for us, bad for our brains. And he said mostly plants, because it turns out that plants contain so many of the phytochemicals and the nutrients that we need to have healthy brains. You asked about one food in particular, and if I was going to name one food, I think it would be blueberries. I saw a study, it was published in the Annals of Neurology, and the researchers there analyzed data from 16,000 women with an average age of 74. And what they found was those women with the highest levels of blueberry consumption were cognitively 2.5 years younger for doing so. When you consider the enormous costs of dementia and cognitive aging, a 2.5-year extension in healthy brain function, it would not only make a profound impact on the lives of millions of families, but it would save far more money than even buying a lifetime supply of the most expensive organic blueberries you could find would cost. So although blueberries and raspberries and blackberries can be expensive, the last time I looked, dementia was a lot more expensive. And eating these foods can go a long way as part of a healthy eating pattern to protect you.
Fresh blueberries are only in season for a short while. The most readily available are often frozen, but some people fear that nutrients might be lost or destroyed by freezing.
Yes, they do. And I saw a recent study actually that looked at what happens to the anthocyanin flavonoids in blueberries. They're very delicate. And what happens to them when blueberries are frozen, which is the question you're asking. And what the study found was they found absolutely no reduction in the levels of anthocyanins after 3 months of freezing. And I do want to put in a good word here for other berries as well, because strawberries and raspberries and blackberries, and really all other berries mostly, contain fabulous anti-aging, anti-dementia, and health-giving benefits. And they're very colorful. Their names often are their colors, and these vibrant colors actually signal to us that they're full of the phytonutrients, the flavonoids, the antioxidants, and the vitamins that we need to have healthy brains. In fact, berries are some of the highest antioxidant foods in existence, which is one reason that berries in particular have been shown to reduce blood pressure, to reduce inflammation, to inhibit tumor angiogenesis, and to stimulate your body's production of antioxidant enzymes, all of which is all to the good and your benefit.
Well, I would reinforce that, and I just would give a personal note. When I have my oat cereal every day, Anne insists that I have fresh strawberries, fresh blueberries, fresh blackberries, and fresh raspberries. So I try to cover the spectrum, and I think it's probably important. And the other thing, of course, for cerebral function is to really try to try to stress your brain a little bit every day. You just can't go out and play golf. You've got to be involved with something that's going to expand the horizon. And I think I feel very fortunate in the fact that once I retired from surgery, I was so taken and so excited by the fact that here we could absolutely reverse heart disease, and yet it wasn't yet really crossing the entire horizon. And I will share with you that just 2 years ago, along with Dean Ornish and yours truly, I was asked to join the American College of Cardiology Nutrition Committee. So you might say now the fox is in the hen house. And it's very exciting to see there is a young group of physicians on that committee who are so committed, so devoted to wanting the cardiovascular community to begin to embrace the fact that this is a disease that never has to exist. And if it does exist, that they will have the most powerful tool they've ever had to halt and to reverse this disease. Perhaps not an easy job of persuasion, because you have to be honest about it. In a sense, we're a pretty threatening group to medicine's biggest cash cow. But at the same time, there is a duty to try to show what is the safest thing, because cardiologists as a group I think are very caring, very compassionate, and they have an enormous fund of knowledge, and they want to see their patients get well. But since they never have any training in this when they're in medical school, they never have any training in this in their postgraduate cardiovascular studies, that's something that really has to change, because that's what's going to make the difference ultimately.
You know, I was speaking a few years back to Kim Williams, who was then the president of the American College of Cardiology. And he spoke effusively and glowingly and joyfully about your research and about Dr. Dean Ornish's research, and their ability and the ability of the whole foods plant-based diet to prevent and reverse heart disease, and to prevent and reverse a lot of the diseases that are plaguing our society today. And he was very grateful to you in particular, and to Dr. Dean Ornish for your outstanding work.
Well, Kim is great. And it's such an exciting thing to think that we have an ally like Kim Williams, who is the immediate past president of the American College of Cardiology, serves on their nutrition committee. And he himself, for all of his patients, has for now a number of years has used plant-based nutrition, not only in his own life, but for that of his patients.
Well, you know, the times are changing. You know, I think people are fed up with toxic food and with a toxic food culture. You know, there's the old saying, if the people lead, the leaders will follow. And I think we could also say, if the patients lead, the doctors will follow. And we're starting to see that with some wonderful trailblazers like yourself that are helping to illumine the facts and show us what's possible. And more people are stepping into that. You know, I'm passionate about implementation, because I think heart disease and cancer don't actually care a whole lot what we know, but they definitely care what we eat. And so when we choose to move towards a whole foods plant-based diet, when we put excellent nutrition into action, then that's when change happens. And that's why we created the Plant Powered and Thriving course, because we want to help everybody to have the tools to actually implement all of this effectively and stay with it for the long term. One of the things that I love in the implementation process is recipes. You know, I love to freestyle in the kitchen. And like most people, I've also got a handful of things that I make repeatedly and consistently that may get a little old, but they're familiar and comfortable and easy and delicious and healthy. But I also enjoy recipes. I like expanding my horizons, and I like getting out of ruts, and I like trying new things. And my favorite recipes have three traits. One is that they use wholesome, nutritious ingredients that can be, the number two is that they can be prepared in under a half hour, preferably less. And number three is that they need to be delicious. And everyone who signed up for this Power Hour got a free Plant Powered and Thriving starter kit, which includes 3 wonderful recipes. They're kale and blueberry salad, quinoa with walnuts, and a cheesy tahini lemon herb dressing. And if you haven't already downloaded your starter kit and taken advantage of these delicious recipes, you can get it at thriving.foodrevolution.org/resource kit. Once again, that's thriving.foodrevolution.org/resource kit. And when you join in Plant Powered and Thriving, which we'll tell you about more in depth at the end of this power hour, you'll get a new collection of fabulous recipes that are easy, affordable, nutrient-packed, and incredibly delicious, all synced with shopping list apps and cooking demonstration videos.
Our goal here really is to deepen your faith in yourself and in your ability to live the healthiest and happiest life that's possible for you. That's not always easy. Sometimes it's actually very difficult because it can be hard to make healthy choices and to sustain them when you live in a society, as we do, that has normalized eating food that's grown with pesticides and hormones and antibiotics, and food that's often laced with added sugars and all kinds of unregulated chemicals. So it's very important that we help each other and that we stand with each other for food as a source of health and a source of vitality and a source of beauty in our lives. You know, we all have a need to belong. We're social creatures. We need a family, a tribe, a community, just some friends. We need that support socially. And one of the ways that we often cement the bonds of our belonging with one another is through sharing meals, which is why it can be very hard to eat healthfully when the members of our family or our friends or our coworkers aren't doing so. And that's why it's so important that we make new friends who support and affirm our healthy eating path. And that's why it's so powerful to be part of a community like this one that's dedicated to healthy eating.
It truly is. And we have a lot of friends who have been asking some wonderful questions throughout this power hour. And I want to turn our attention to some of them now. We heard from Patricia Mock, who said, so many doctors are pushing bone broth. What are your thoughts? Dr. Esselstyn, could you share your thoughts? We're hearing a lot of people saying bone broth, bone broth, bone broth. What's your take?
I haven't heard that.
Okay, got it.
I know there are lots of wonderful soups that Anne has and that are in our books, but that's a new fetish that I'm not aware of.
Okay, got it. Well, it's being pushed for digestive health and various other things. And I will say, one of the major concerns I have about bone broth is that the bones actually capture heavy metals. And studies have been done that have found that many bone broths that are on the market today are contaminated with heavy metals and toxins. And there was also a study done with organic chicken bones where they took water and they tested it, and then they boiled chicken bones in it, organic chicken bones, and then they tested it again. And sure enough, the water that had been boiled with the chicken bones had substantially increased levels of heavy metals. And this is a real concern.
Well, I would just take a page from my good friend Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study. And Colin is a great believer in the body as a symphony. And whenever he hears about this sort of reductionism that you're talking about, that there's going to be one particular food that is going to be miraculous. When you look at the spectrum of cultures and all the different types of plant-based diets that are out there, in the Okinawans and the Japanese and the Papua Highlanders, Central Africa, and the Tarahumara. I mean, just look at the Tarahumara. They are so strong and so healthy. What do they eat? They eat the three sisters, beans, corn, and squash. And when Jim O'Connor, the physician, was down there studying them, not one person who had hypertension, not one person had obesity, and they were in blooming health. And they didn't take bone broth.
Yeah.
I would add something about bone broth, if I may.
Sure.
The bones come from an animal, and what that animal ate and how it lived, the conditions it was kept in, and so forth, are going to affect what's in those bones. And in industrialized meat production, in modern meat production, factory farming, feedlots, we feed animals diets that are completely unnatural to their metabolism, and whatever really the industry can most inexpensively use to put weight on the animal. And very often that's polluted. It's genetically engineered. It's grown with a tremendous amount of herbicides and insecticides and fungicides and other pesticides. And very often it's really bad. And the result of that is that the bones of these creatures carry those heavy metals and other pollutants that can be really injurious. So although it may seem romantic that bone broth might be an elixir, all too often it's the opposite.
Yeah. I'd like to direct this next one to my dad. It came from Kimberly Yarter, who said, I'm 56 years old. Is it too late for me to reverse disease at this point in my life?
Oh, that's such a great question, because that's on a lot of people's minds. We feel like, well, we've done the damage already. We know what we've inflicted on our bodies. We know how, we can think of all the mistakes we've made and the problems we've caused ourselves. And we think, well, shouldn't I just enjoy life now because the die is already cast? But it's stunning. It's spectacularly real how much can be changed when you change your diet, when you start to eat healthfully. Excellent nutrition has astounding powers to support your body in its natural healing mechanisms. And they're still there. And they're begging for the nutrition that they need to do their job, which is to restore you to full health. And when you give your body that nutrition and you stop pummeling it with the bad things that we so often ingest, and instead just give it the good things, what happens is borderline miraculous. We see so often diseases that Western medicine thinks can't be treated. All we can do is treat them with drugs that arrest some of the symptoms or moderate some of the symptoms, but produce other symptoms, their side effects. And we don't realize in Western medicine today, in modern medicine, how often really good food can eliminate the problem completely. So I think you're 56, the woman who asked this question, you're young. We see people in their 80s, even in their 90s, reversing conditions that have been developed for a long period of time with excellent nutrition. So great question. And the answer is really breathtakingly beautiful.
I reinforced what John has just said. I received a phone call just last week from one of my oldest patients who's been with us 10 years. He's now 95, never had to have the operation.
Yes. We heard from Chuck Gebhardt, who said, a Food Revolution Summit earlier this year led to Bright Line Eating and the Plant Powered and Thriving course. I'm now down 40 pounds and feeling the best I felt in 20 plus years. I heard John say on his 70th birthday, he ran up a steep hill. Today is my 64th, and I did a back bend and a handstand. Thank you, John and Ocean, for all you do. So I think this kind of reinforces the point here that at any age and any stage, we can make a change. And I would actually say the worse you have eaten up to this point, in some ways, the more you have to gain with making a shift. Because there's tremendous room for improvement. So wherever you are and whatever your history is, we can't change the past. Some of us would like to go back and change all kinds of things about our history. But what we can do is have choice about what we do now. And it is never too late to step forward. And we've seen so many miraculous unfoldings and developments in so many people's lives. We heard from Jean Reagan, and I'll direct this one to Dr. Esselstyn. Jean said, how do you measure any heart disease reversal? Do blood tests give a definitive answer? What about heart scans?
Interesting. There are probably 8 ways to define coronary artery disease reversal. The first one is really sort of actually dramatic and rather sexy when you see another angiogram that as a follow-up, and the patient has actually begun to decrease the degree of blockage in their artery. But I think that's a very unsafe way to measure improvement, because if I have 1,000 patients, they all have to get another angiogram. Somebody's going to die from the angiogram, and there's a ridiculous expense. The best way perhaps would be to measure another stress test, a stress echo that's so safe, you could have it done every day. So you've got the angiogram, you can reverse the stress test, and then the PET scan. The PET scan would be quite powerful for showing how promptly this can occur. And we have several pictures in our book showing indeed that you can re-perfuse an area of the heart muscle that has poor perfusion in as early as 3 weeks of doing this. And there's also the evaluation of carotid disease reversal by ultrasound. And you can also measure disease reversal in the legs with pulse volume. So there's 5. Now, the last 3 would be the symptoms. As you get disappearance of chest pain and angina, you get disappearance of claudication or pain in the calf muscle. And number 4, you get rid of erectile dysfunction. And so those are, I think, some 8 ways you can measure coronary disease reversal. And it's especially powerful with the patients who see you with angina, because as they get into this, literally within days, as they were climbing that little hill before and they had to slow down, they can find they can now cover that hill a little faster. And then suddenly within a week or 2, they don't have to slow down at all. And it's such a reinforcing for them that how powerful the food transition is in getting rid of their disease. Now, there's one other point that a little bit periphery to this that I wanted to make before I lose you. And that is, people might think that, gee, the government is going to save me. Now, Colin Campbell and I were very naive about, perhaps about 10 or 15 years ago. We made 4 different trips to Washington, thinking that if we could show these results to the United States Department of Agriculture, which every 5 years makes this food pyramid or food plate. Now, that is a disaster. Here is your government in charge of the school food program. And what do they guarantee that our children will eat? The very foods that are going to give them this illness. Why? Because everyone who is in a leadership position in the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, formerly was president of the Cattlemen's Association, president of the Dairy Board, the Egg Board, the Pork Board. In other words, really, it's just something very naive that Colin Campbell and I had to learn the hard way. Now, the other one is, what is industry going to do for this disease? Do you suppose the $35 billion statin industry is going to roll over and say, gee, I'd love to get rid of this epidemic? Here, that's not going to happen. And sadly, some of my own colleagues, how many of cardiologists you know who are thriving with stents and bypasses are clamoring for fewer and fewer patients? So we've got some hurdles in front of us, but I'm sure this is something that we can do.
Science, when you talk about government is not the solution, and we can't actually depend on government to guide us properly because of the vested interests that you mentioned. It shows me how important it is that each of us take responsibility for our own health, take charge of our own health, and listen very carefully to what the scientific literature is telling us. It would be the most effective and beneficial things to eat and not to eat. And I think that we do really have the power to arrest these diseases, to prevent them, and to reverse them. And it's a shame when we don't, because we can and we should.
Well, medical schools have really got to get on board with this too. There's no question, because it's really so egregiously inappropriate that medical students are not learning about this.
Yes, it is. And we're actually going to be launching a campaign in the coming year to help get nutrition taught in medical schools. So everyone who's part of the Food Revolution Network, you can look forward to hearing more about that and how you can be involved in the times to come, because we want to mobilize a cultural change on this issue. We heard from Kate Sant, who said it's expensive to eat organic veggies. What do we do? And Kate, I want to say thank you for asking. It's true. Organic food can cost more. And the optimal choice for you on this is going to be impacted by where you live, what you have access to, and of course, your financial resources. The Environmental Working Group made a list of what they call the dirty dozen most pesticide contaminated foods, and also the clean 15, which are foods that are the least contaminated, even if they aren't organically grown. You can find this on Google. In general, the clean 15 are foods that have a shell or a peel or a rind that you don't eat, like avocados or melons or mangoes or papayas. But I also want to be clear about something else. We've got a lot of studies showing the health benefits of eating fruits and vegetables. And most of the fruits and vegetables eaten in those studies were not grown organically. And people still got a huge benefit from eating them. So I believe organic matters. I believe it matters a lot. but don't make the perfect into the enemy of the good. It's almost certainly going to be better to eat vegetables, even if they aren't organically grown, than not to eat them. Now, we've had a lot of questions and responses coming in, and we can't possibly get to all of them now, but our team's going to follow up with many of them. And for those of you who enroll in Plant Powered and Thriving, there are a lot more opportunities to ask questions and to engage with us and our team directly, including a special question and answer session that will follow immediately after our first class wraps up on Tuesday. In a moment, Dr. Esselstyn's going to need to move on, and my dad and I are going to stay with you. And this will be your chance to find out more about Plant Powered and Thriving and how it works, and to get in on what is actually your very last opportunity right here tonight to take advantage of discounts and special bonuses that are only available directly from this Power Hour. And we will be sharing all about that in a couple of minutes here.
I wanted to add that our goal really is to help you to live the healthiest life that's possible for you. And the more magnetic you are, the more sparkly you are, the more vital and vibrant and self-empowered you are, then the more contagious you will be with the goodness that you've found. So our goal is to support you in every way that we can, so you can shine as a beacon of health. And so the people who are in your life will like what they see and will want what you have.
That's right. So if you're even thinking about maybe possibly being interested in joining in this course with us, I want to urge you to stay with us after Dr. Esselstyn goes, so you can find out more and decide if it's right for you. And now, Dr. Esselstyn, I want to thank you again so much for joining us. And I want to ask if you have any closing words that you'd like to share.
Well, Ocean and John, it's just too long between chances that I get a chance to see you guys. I want to congratulate you on the marvelous job that you're doing with this program and what you're trying to do in terms of really enlightening the masses on how they can absolutely annihilate disease. I'm awfully proud of you, and I want you to be proud of yourselves. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you. And I just have to say how lucky I feel to be here with both of you. I mean, the two of you are truly legends in the movement for healthy, compassionate, sustainable food. You've inspired millions of people. And as a relative newcomer on the scene, at least biologically speaking, I feel like I and everyone in my generation is standing on the shoulders of giants as we carry this work forward. I'm so grateful, and I know our participants are as well. And so we're going to let Dr. Esselstyn go now with our love. And if you want to pull some of these threads of wisdom through to your life, and if you want to set yourself up for success in implementing a healthy eating path, then please stay on with us now.
And thanks for staying on with us now. I know so many people who get inspired about cleaning up their diet and changing their life. They know it matters. They know that they would benefit greatly from that. And they have all the best of intentions. But then, as they move along on the path, life happens. I mean, they get busy, they get confused, they lose momentum, something happens. They wind up too often not making the progress they had hoped for, not making the progress that they had envisioned and wanted. And that's a serious loss, because our lives are on the line here. And if you revert to the status quo, all too often, the status quo is a fast track to suffering and to disease and even to death. So we created Plant Powered and Thriving because we are sick and tired of seeing people who have the best intentions fall by the wayside. And we want to help you to succeed and to really thrive long-term in a sustained way, in a sustainable way. Now, as we talk about this course, some of you could be thinking at this point, well, they're just trying to sell their course. And I want to address that concern quite directly. You see, if my goal in life was primarily about making money, if that was my value system, I guarantee you I never would have left Baskin-Robbins. I walked away from the opportunity to inherit and to own and to run what was at that time the world's largest ice cream company, what was then and is now a multi-billion-dollar company. And I did that because I believe in living a life that contributes to the well-being of others. And I believe in healthy eating. And I believe deeply in these things.
Yes. And that's what we're all about, is helping you put it into practice and into action in your life. And I want to say, if you've already heard about Plant Powered and Thriving and our other power hours, and you already know that you want to sign up for this, you can go ahead and click that button on the broadcast page, or go to foodrevolution.org/join. And you can go ahead and sign up right now. There are some special bonuses and opportunities that will only be available until midnight Pacific time tonight, and some that are actually first come, first served that could be gone at any moment. So if you know you want in, then please, we won't feel offended if you click on over and join in and sign up right now. And we're going to keep telling you more about it and what's in this so that you can know all about it and make an informed choice if you're still on the fence or thinking about it. So first off, I want to say that if you sign up tonight, you get a 20% discount. You also get a free bonus Ultimate Health Collection that would cost you hundreds of dollars to get any other way. And as of now, we have about 50 CD sets combined with fully printed transcript sets from our third Food Revolution Summit. And this features interviews with 24 of the top food experts of our times. That's a $297 value. It's sold on our website right now for that. And it's available only from this page, only while supplies last. So if you're thinking about joining in, then now's a great time to do so. Now, getting specific, here's how Plant Powered and Thriving works. It's a
Ocean, can I interrupt you just for a second?
Oh, yeah.
I think people should know that if you sign up tonight and you're one of the first 50 that do, you'll get that CD set from the Food Revolution Summit for free. It comes with it as our gift to you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Good point. Yeah, absolutely. That was the whole point of me talking about it, was that you get it
Yes.
for sign up tonight. So sorry, I didn't make that abundantly clear. So the Plant Powered and Thriving is a 6-week course that we created in tandem with chef extraordinaire Karen Hartglass. And it starts on Tuesday, and you can take it from anywhere in the world. Every week, you'll get another 70-minute class with us, and the classes will mix recorded and live delivery. Each class will feature engaging slides that help you digest it all, and we're going to walk you through implementing healthy eating mastery. And we're going to give you expertly created recipes, meal plans, and time-saving tips. One of my favorites is class number 4, where we're going to give you top insights to help you to bring your friends and family along. This is especially useful if you have people in your life who might not eat as healthfully as you do. We're going to share what we've seen work that could help you be a positive influence, and also how you can happily and peacefully coexist with family members who might not want to eat quite the way that you do all the time.
You know, we have delivered this course and refined it ongoingly, and we've had thousands of participants so far. And we've seen it bring incredible results to people's lives. They tell us that. And in fact, we conducted a survey 2 months after completing one of our Plant Powered and Thriving courses. And what we learned was, what the participants in that course told us, was that they had experienced better overall health, better sleep, higher energy, better digestive health, stronger peer and family support, and more clarity about which foods were healthful. They were raving about the results in their lives. And of those participants who wanted to lose weight, almost all lost the weight they wanted to lose. So the survey told us, in statistical terms, numerical terms, what people have been telling us in words so often, which is this course gave them the benefits they hoped to get and allowed them to continue with those in a sustained and ongoing way.
So again, if you want to check it out right now while we're talking, you can just click on the button for it that's under this broadcast on our broadcast page. Or if you're on the phone right now, just go to foodrevolution.org/join. In fact, if you already know this is for you, you can click on over and join in now, and we will be so happy to welcome you. And while you will have other opportunities in the next couple of days before the class starts to join in, I do want to invite you to take the leap and sign up now to take advantage of the discounts and bonuses that are only available before midnight tonight. Now, let's get a little bit more specific about what you're going to receive. Every week, you'll get a new online class. Each class will be about 70 minutes, and you can join in live or catch the replay and enjoy the transcripts for life. And we'll stay on after the first and last class for a question and answer session. You'll get access to our private, moderated online community forum where you can connect with peers, you can share struggles and successes, You can ask for expert advice. This is a beautiful place to build community and build connection with kindred spirits on the path and to get tangible support from allies all over the world. You'll also get our top time-saving tips and product recommendations for stocking a healthy kitchen. You're going to get special reports like the truth about soy, the truth about juicers and blenders, eating better and spending less, how to raise healthy plant-powered kids, and many more. Plus, you're going to get mind-blowing presentations from guest faculty who have been among the most popular speakers in our Food Revolution Summits. This includes Dr. Dean Ornish and Caldwell Esselstyn, as well as dietitian Brenda Davis, Michael Bernard Beckwith, Kathy Freston, and Dr. Joel Furman. Plus, you're going to enjoy delicious, nutritious, plant-strong recipes that even kids love. The moment that you register, starting tonight, you're going to gain instant access to a powerful collection of bonuses. You're going to get the moderated member community forum, the amazing recipes, special reports, and a lot more. We will start the actual classes on Tuesday, and we'll continue every Tuesday evening for 6 weeks. You can join in online or through teleconference from a phone at 5:30 Pacific time, which is 8:30 Eastern. And if you can't make it on any or all of the Tuesday nights, you won't miss anything because you'll have the replays and the transcripts available for life. So you can listen anytime you want from anywhere in the world.
You know, I know a lot of people and probably a lot of the folks who are listening to us right now who are do-it-yourselfers. And if you are, right now you might be thinking, well, this all sounds great, but I could probably just do this by myself. I could buy a cookbook and make it happen. And if that works for you, great. I mean, self-reliance is a wonderful thing. And the reality is that things often go faster and they go better when you do have ongoing support from other folks. And particularly when those other folks are really experts in helping people apply these principles effectively. One of our goals in offering Plant Powered and Thriving is to pull together decades of practical experience. I don't know a lot of people who have the time to do all the research on their own, but you don't have to. You can lean into what we've learned and into the program we've developed and are offering to you. And in the process, you can powerfully accelerate your own healing journey. And it's important that you have that support. The food culture we live in is so toxic. We are all surrounded by fast foods and convenient foods that are really just junk foods. You shouldn't have to swim upstream by yourself in order to do the right thing for your health. Together, we can create a new current that pulls you in the right direction. And the goal of Plant Powered and Thriving is that it gives you the support so that you can do it yourself and do it really well.
So here are the specifics of each week of the course.
Yeah, the focus of week 1 is on saving you time and setting you up for success. And we front load a lot of the time-saving tips right at the start of the course because our goal is to take stress off of you, take stress off your back right from day 1.
In week 2, we're going to focus on how you can get the nutrients that you need deliciously. We want you to have all the building blocks that you need so that you can thrive.
In week 3, we'll focus on how to eat and love your greens. Most people know they should eat greens, but we're going to help you and your family to understand both their profound benefits and also to learn how to enjoy them more, to prepare them deliciously, and to incorporate them in a way that will really be ongoingly sustainable for you.
Right, and for your family. We don't want kids who are crying, being like, I don't want to eat my broccoli, you know? So we're going to show you how you can make it fun and delicious for the whole family to enjoy greens. The focus of week 4 is on bringing your friends and family along. We're going to give you tips for sharing ideas and meals with people who might not eat the same way that you do. And we're going to give you support to navigate social dynamics in family gatherings, like the holidays, for example, at work, in restaurants, and also around the dinner table.
Then in week 5, we're going to take on a very, very juicy topic, which is carbs and gluten and grains and sweeteners. And you'll find out what the science actually says. And most importantly, you'll find out how to determine what's really best for your unique and particular body at this juncture in your unique life path.
And then in our final week, which is week 6, we're going to help you plan for meals on the move. We're going to give you top tips for travel, for busy schedules, restaurant meals, and how you can freestyle in the kitchen for fast, delicious results. And we're going to celebrate you, and we're going to celebrate all that you've accomplished. So again, if you want to check it all out in more detail or to join in now, you can click on the button for Plant Powered and Thriving right from the broadcast page to take advantage of the special offer that's available before midnight tonight. Now, this course also comes with more than $1,000 worth of free bonuses, and these include Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson's 14-day challenge, which has helped people lose thousands of pounds in the last year, Dr. Dean Ornish's Ornish Program Guidebook, and a special recipe collection from Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn and his family. You're also going to get bonuses from Dr. Rita Marie Lascauso, Katie May, and many more. And there's also more. For those of you who feel like this could be a support for you, we wanted to put something together that's really generous and that helps to motivate you to make a decision and to take action tonight, because we know that so often procrastination is the thief of destiny. And since we're offering a total 60-day guarantee, we want to encourage you to step forward knowing that there is no risk and you can step forward and make this happen for you. So right now, tonight, directly from this Power Hour only, you get these special opportunities. First, a 20% discount if you sign up tonight. Second, a totally free set of the Gold Empowerment Package from the Food Revolution Summits Volume 3. We've got a very limited quantity of these beautiful binders that give you CDs from all 25 presentations in the third Food Revolution Summit, plus printed transcripts of the entire summit. This is a package that's only available on our website right now for $297, and there's a very limited supply even then. But the first 50 people who register tonight, I'm sure it's less than 50 by now, but I don't have a current count, but they're going to get it for just the cost of shipping. Once those are gone, the bonus will be removed from the page. So if you still see it offered, that means they're still available. But this offer is only for the very fastest action takers. And once it's gone, you'll never see it again. Another fast action bonus that's only available from this Power Hour is the Ultimate Health Collection. It brings you 20 of the most popular interviews we've ever conducted on the topics of food and health. The only other way to directly buy this curated collection would be to buy the empowerment package from each of our past summits and to spend more than $1,000 in the process. But we don't want you to do that. In fact, we want to give this to you completely for free if you sign up for Plant Powered and Thriving tonight. You can get the entire course for 3 monthly payments of $89, or if you pay all at once, you get an even further savings, bringing your price down to just one payment of $247. That's a 20% discount off the regular price. And again, this discount does expire tonight at midnight. And keep in mind, we do offer a 60-day total satisfaction, 100% guarantee. We want you to be thrilled with this. We want to take all the risk out of it, and we want to offer it to you from our hearts, knowing that it could profoundly transform your life. So again, if you want to join in, just click on the button. You can get all the bonuses, including the ones that could disappear any minute, and you can sign up now.
You know, every step that you take in life matters, but it's the steps that set you on a new trajectory and that set you on that change your direction, really, that have a vastly expanded impact. So if you've been inspired by what you've learned about food and health, and if you want to step more fully into healthy eating mastery, then we want to support you in every way we possibly can to put what you know and what you're learning into action. And if Plant Powered and Thriving has a resonance for you, if it speaks to an impulse, some part of you, some place in your gut that says, yes, I want this, then by all means, I hope you'll join us and join us today so you can take advantage of all the discounts and all the bonuses.
You know, when somebody dies, some people might say that heart disease or cancer or diabetes was the cause of death. But in reality, those are not causes of death. They're symptoms. The actual cause of death is often a toxic diet and a lifestyle that laid the groundwork for disease. If someone drives at full speed into a brick wall, the death certificate might indicate that cause of death was trauma to the body caused by the impact with the brick wall. But you and I know that in reality, it was driving into the wall that made it happen. So I think it's time for all of us to become better drivers of our own health destiny. We all know the modern diet is a fast track to disease and even death. And we know we can do better. And we created Plant Powered and Thriving to help you to do better. You know, a little while back, we heard from Dr. Pat Spenceley. He's a family practice doctor in Newburgh, Oregon. And I want to share his story now because I think it's important. Like most doctors, Dr. Spenceley learned very little in medical school about nutrition. He was faced with severe asthma and obesity, and he discovered the Food Revolution Network. And with our support, he implemented a whole foods, plant-strong diet. Within a year, Dr. Spenceley lost 50 pounds, and his health and his energy levels improved dramatically. And this inspired him in turn to transform his medical practice. So now he's talking to his patients with enthusiasm about how they can prevent osteoporosis and cancer, and about how they can avoid hypertension, obesity, and heart disease. He also helps them to stay off of drugs and to stay away from doctors' offices, including his own. Dr. Spenceley has lived a transformation, and it brings him huge satisfaction to not only treat the symptoms of disease, but to actually help his patients to be well. Now, we need more doctors like Dr. Spenceley, and we need more people like you to put what we're learning into action. We all know that our medical system is often acting like food didn't matter, but we also know that food is the foundation of health, and that putting a whole foods, plant-powered diet into action can have a massive impact on your life. And that ultimately is why we created Plant-Powered and Thriving. So if you think that this might be a fit for you, we would love to have you with us. The response to our past course has been extraordinary, and I think this is going to be the best one yet. Aldous Hodge famously said, "Every single step, although I couldn't see it, was a step forward and built to where I am now." So I want to thank you for stepping forward with whatever is your bold commitment. And I want to thank you so much for your partnership in the food revolution. My dad and I both look forward to being with you again soon. And I hope to see you on Tuesday for the first Plant-Powered and Thriving class. The course begins the moment you register, and I can't wait to share it all with you. You can sign up right now, right from this page, or by going to foodrevolution.org/join. We look forward to working with you for a real food revolution. We wish you much beauty and a life that is filled with health and with vitality and with lots of good food. And we wish you a beautiful night.